Hello, everybody. Your lighting makes you look very ominous, Rob.
Yes, it's more Halloween.
Okay, let me unmute. How's that? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yeah.
You can't hear me.
No, I can hear you just fine now. So, hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm expecting this is going to be a pretty small meeting, which is fine. It is actually my son's 24th birthday today, and he is visiting, which is exciting. So I have an incentive to be even quicker than usual, so I can go join the birthday celebration. But yeah, so great to see you all. The topic of tonight is just talking about the Christmas count on Saturday. I was going to go really quickly through an outline of information about it, but feel free to, interrupt and ask questions. Normally I encourage folks to stay muted, but I think in this case, a raucous proceeding with everybody asking questions will work just fine. It's great to see everyone. It's great to see people out scouting in the count circle. There's been a lot of neat birds seen just today, at Lake Jocelyn. There was an eastern phoebe that I found there yesterday, I think, or the day before. I think it was yesterday. And then with the Patagonia picnic table effect, a bunch of people went out there today to see that bird. And Mark Holmgren found a Harris's sparrow. And Spencer Seal found a chipping sparrow, which is less of a rarity, but is the only place I've seen it show up in scouting for our count. So Adrian O'Loughlin is assigned that location on count day. So I've been sending him, every time a new bird shows up there, I send him another email and he's saying like, yeah, John, I'm following. I'm on top of it. Don't worry. So he's got a long list of birds I'm hoping he can find there. Okay, so I'm just going to go really quick. I think I will go ahead and share my screen to kind of show you some resources that are useful. Let's see if this works. Okay, so if I've done that right, you've seen my outline for the meeting, which is not that useful. But then I'm going to pop over here. So at carpbirdwatchers.org, there is a page for the Carpinteria Christmas Bird Count. This is sort of the generic page for the CBC. You're encouraged to check it out for information. Down at the bottom of it, I want to show you there's a bunch of links. And in general, if there's something you want access to that you figure, geez, where do I find that? Check at the bottom of this page, because probably the thing you want is in this list of links here. And then one of the things that's linked, but also is linked up at the top, is this page of participant instructions. And that is this page, which is specific just to this year's count. So this is a lot more detail about what is the procedure for this year's count. So if you haven't seen this, I encourage you to look it over. This talks about what to do. And again, down at the bottom, it has pretty much the same list of links. I figured I'll just duplicate the links anywhere someone might happen upon them. So again, if there's something you're looking for, you can stumble onto either of these pages at carpbirdwatchers.org and scroll to the bottom. You can probably find the link to the thing you need. Okay, so I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to show you that. Just to go over what's going to happen on Saturday really quick. So those of you who have done the Carpinteria Christmas count before, or even other Christmas counts before, you kind of know the procedure. You go out in the morning and bird watch. We're planning on having a Zoom meeting around lunchtime just to see what we've got and what we don't have. That's so that people who still have the energy and the inclination can continue birding into the afternoon, and they'll know what we're missing. So they know what to go after to try and get our species total higher. So that's going to be a Zoom meeting due to COVID. And that meeting will officially be at 12:30. And the link to that Zoom meeting is on the aforementioned pages at carpbirdwatchers.org. So you're certainly encouraged to join that meeting. You don't have to join that meeting. What I would like to encourage everybody who is a group leader or a solo birder at a location, if you're someone who's producing a checklist for the count, I encourage you to either attend that noon meeting if you can, that noon Zoom meeting, which is actually at 12:30, or submit your checklist in a way that lets us see it so that your birds can be reflected in the discussion of what we have and don't have at that meeting. So, so I want to talk about that. So if you're an experienced eBird user, that's great. eBird is my preferred way for you to submit your checklist. And there are two different ways that you can get an eBird checklist to us. The first way is to share it with the Carp CBC eBird user using the list sharing feature within eBird. And I was going to show you that really quick. So I'm going to try and do a demo from my phone, which is always dangerous. But if this works, in a second, you'll be able to see my phone. Or rather in 3 seconds. Okay, so that's my phone that I am sharing. And I want to go show you eBird. So here we are in eBird. Again, if you're an eBird user and you use the eBird app in the field, you're familiar with this. I'm going to make a new checklist. I'm going to make one just to throw away. I'm going to say I've got a great horned owl outside, which I don't, but it'd be nice if I did. And then I will go ahead and stop because I'm ready to submit my checklist. And this is where I want to show you something kind of interesting. If you want to share a checklist with another user within eBird, it doesn't show you the link to do that if your checklist observer count is 1, because it thinks, oh, you have no one else to share with. But if you increase that observer count to 2, you then get this share checklist with link. And if you click on that, you then have the option to input a username. And the username, again, for the Carpinteria Christmas count is Carp CBC. So if you type that in and then hit next in the interface, it sort of highlights it. So that tells you, oh, I'm going to share this checklist with that user. And then I'm going to hit done. So now that green text there in the middle of the screen tells me it'll be shared with one eBirder. And I can actually go back now and put this number back to 1 if I want for the number of observers. And it looks like that checklist sharing went away, but in fact, it's still live. Like it will still share with the Carp CBC eBird user. So I'm not sure that was intentional when they were designing the app, but that's how it works. So that is a way to share your checklist with the Carp CBC eBird user. The other way to do it is once you've submitted the checklist and you go back home and you're at your computer. Let's see if I can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, we'll look at an eBird list. So recent checklist of mine. Here, when you're in eBird's web interface and you're looking at a checklist of yours, under the checklist tools, you can share with others in your party. And if you select that link, you basically can do the same thing here. I can type Carp CBC and share checklist, and it will go ahead and send a share request to the Carp CBC eBird user. And so if you share a checklist with us from Saturday, we're going to have somebody who's sitting at a computer Saturday morning who's basically, my wife is doing this and my sister-in-law Mary, which is great. Thank you to both of them. They're going to be checking periodically to see if there are any new checklists that have been shared with the Carp CBC user, and they will accept those checklists, which is very handy because what that does is it shares it with the trip report, the eBird trip report for the Carpinteria CBC, which is this page that I just found in the links that I talked about earlier. Now, there's no checklist in this trip report yet because it's limited just to Saturday, but there's a similar trip report that we've been using during covering the 2 weeks of scouting before that day. So this is what that looks like. And this is a neat feature that eBird just came out with recently, where you can share a bunch of checklists from different people and it merges them all together and it maps where they're showing up. So these are all the people who've shared their checklists with the Carp CBC eBird user or who have joined this trip report directly. And that's the second of the ways you can get your checklist to us. If you don't want to bother with what I showed you about sharing with the Carp CBC eBird user, you can just join the Carpinteria CBC trip report ahead of time. And then as soon as you submit your checklist, it will be shared with us. And it'll show up in not this trip report, but the one I just showed you for Saturday. That sounds confusing to me. And I've been like living in this thing for the last week. So
How do you do,
yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
how do you do that? How do you get to be a member?
So I have sent an invite to everybody who was signed up as a trip leader for the Christmas count. So you should have that in your email somewhere. Look for something from the Carpinteria CBC eBird user inviting you to join a trip report and follow that link and you should be able to get in there.
John,
So-
I didn't get that email.
Okay, so I can send another round. This is the list of everybody in there. So I think you probably did because you are signed up. You're signed up for the scouting one at least. This is the list of all the people who have joined this trip report. And you're down there. So, it's a new feature from eBird. I don't know it very well, but I think whatever it was you did, it worked because you're on here.
Okay.
And again, as a fallback, you can always just share with the Carp CBC eBird user. You don't have to be signed up for the trip report.
Oh,
Because-
that's why. Okay.
So
I think you.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
So, I'm going with someone else, I believe, too. So I was just wondering, are they gonna put in one checklist for them and I, or is that how
It's-
it's gonna?
That's probably what will happen. It's kind of between
Okay.
you and your group leader. I think you're going out with Laurel or Tom, remind me. You're at the state beach, right?
I believe so. I forget though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I forget. Okay.
Well, double check that information. And
Yeah.
With
And-
Heidi. Yeah, he's.
yeah, with Heidi Ortloff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
she may or may not be eBird savvy. She may be happy to have you keep the checklist if you're willing to do
Yeah.
it. It's kind of between you and her. Let her tell you how she wants to do it.
Okay.
So all of this discussion so far assumes you're doing this using eBird, but
Yeah.
you don't have to be doing it using
Okay.
eBird.
Yeah.
So the other option, if you want to keep a paper-based checklist, is again, go to that page with all those links, and down at the bottom of that page, there are downloadable copies of paper-based checklist. Like you can download a PDF and you can print it, and then you
Okay.
have a standard checklist.
Okay.
And enter your information on there. And then the question is, how do we get it? So at that noon
Yeah.
meeting or that 12:30 meeting, we have access to it.
Okay.
Did you have a hand up, Guy? Were you looking to ask a question? You're muted, but if the answer is no, we don't have to.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Yeah, so the paper-based checklist works fine. So in that case, what you're going to do is you're going to fill it out. You're going to put your counts of birds on there. And then what seems to work best for all concerned is take a cell phone picture of the checklist and then text or email that photo to me. And again, my contact info, my text number and my email address are in that list in that participant instructions page where it talks about how to submit your list. So if you can do that by noon, that would be ideal. Again, then we will have access to that information and it can be reflected in our noon Zoom meeting to figure out what birds we do and don't have and what the people who want to keep going should be focusing on. So,
Okay.
and that's it for, if you're a group leader or a person birding on your own, submitting a checklist, you're done at that point. If we get your checklist from your morning outing, that's great. You have done your part. Thank you. You don't need to worry beyond that for that day. There is an effort form that you need to fill out, but you can do that subsequently. I think I said, within a week, it'd be nice if you could do it. It's like a Christmas present to me, because a week after the count will be Christmas. So, get your effort form in. There's a link. I've made an online version of it. And you just fill out like how many parties did you have and how many miles did you cover. And it's all, I think, pretty self-explanatory. So let's see. So that is sort of the submission of the checklist. Are there any other questions about the checklist, about keeping it, submitting it? Yeah, Andrea.
Yeah.
If I don't get onto the group checklist, then you said that I put CBC as, after I make.
Well, you cut out just as you were getting to the interesting part, which is typical of Zoom. I'm going to give a second for Andrea to come back to life.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
So how important are photos and like accurate counts if a group of bush tits go by?
Yeah, good luck for the group of bush tits. If you get that situation where the bush tits are crossing a gap in front of you, it's really cool the way they do it, because they do it like in ones and twos, and you can just sit there and count them. Whenever I've had that experience, I find that I have been woefully underestimating my bush tit count. I'll say I hear 4 or 6 of them, and then 12 of them or 20 of them go by. So yeah, do your best. The counts are what they are. You're going to be doing your best to get that information in there. In terms of accuracy, you want to be confident before you report a species. Confidence is, a subjective thing. It's kind of up to you as a birder, which birds you feel confident enough to report. And if you don't feel confident enough, because it's a rarity or it's a bird that's really similar to another bird, again, just do your best. If it is a rarity, if it's one that, we've rarely had on the count, or it's a bird where you're not really confident, if you can get photographic documentation, I know you have a great camera. That's ideal. That's the best thing to do. If you can get a photo of the bird, or a sound recording, you can just use your phone and make a sound recording a lot of times if you're close enough to the bird. And then just, describe it. There are resources at eBird that talk about how to do documentation of your sightings, and I linked to some of that in the participant instructions.
Okay.
But it's not, no one's going to prison if you report a bird and I end up saying, yeah, I'm not comfortable.
I don't know that. eBird is pretty demanding.
Yeah, well, you may get an email from the eBird reviewers saying, so about this, whooping crane you had in Carpinteria Creek. But, just do your best, and we'll, that's kind of where, after the count, that's when the strict scrutiny happens, and there's a whole compilation process where we need to decide, what's solid enough to report and what do we want to say, probably had that bird, but we're not going to report it because the documentation's just not there. But, your best.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, John.
Okay. So other questions?
Hi, John. Jan
Okay.
Campbell here for Feline and Claudia. I'm not sure. I don't use eBird, and I don't know if Feline or Claudia does, and I jumped in kind of late on the call. Where are the quote unquote paper recording? Or is there a link to that, or did I miss that?
Yes. So carpbirdwatchers.org.
Okay.
If you go there, there is a prominent link to, Christmas bird count instructions or the Carpinteria CBC. If you go to that page and scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a list of links.
Okay. I think probably Feline is on top of that, but I hadn't looked at that, but thank you. Good to see you, John.
Yeah, good to see you too. And if you have any trouble, or any questions, just email me or text me or call me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Andrea, you look like you're live again. You were cut off in the middle of your question. Do you want to try and ask your question again? You're now muted. There you go.
You guys all froze up and I just had to start over again.
Yeah.
Okay, you said that if we were doing it as a solo, not being included in the group, that we needed to put in the group's name. How do you get the group in there? Do you have to put it on your phone as one of your contacts or what?
You're saying from within the eBird app?
Yeah,
Yeah, you just need to know the username. So I don't know if you saw where I did the little demo with my phone and I showed how if you bump the count up to 2, it gives you a
Yeah.
link to share. So in that little screen that comes up when you're sharing, you can just type in a username
oh,
and it's Carp CBC, all one word, capitalization does not matter.
okay.
So just those 7 characters.
You don't have to have a link on your phone already.
No, it will create one after the first time you share, and then it'll show up in a list of things you can choose. So that's why you saw a bunch when I shared of people that I have shared with in the past. But you can just type it in the first time.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions about checklists and sharing and? Okay, well, I'm going to move on then. And see, I talked about submitting the checklist. I talked about the effort form. Oh, I do want to show one more thing. So those are the basics, right? And if you want to get fancier, I'm gonna share a little bit of a fancier thing. So let's see. I want to share from my phone again to show you something. So to keep track in the field on the day, we will have a spreadsheet. And this is a Google Docs spreadsheet that you can access in the field. The link to this is on the same page as I talked about at carpbirdwatchers.org. It's a little easier to see the way I've set up this spreadsheet if you have your phone in landscape mode, because you get a little more column width to work with. But what this basically is a spreadsheet showing all the species that we think we might get on our count. And they are in taxonomic order. So this should match the order that you'll see in eBird or the order in a recent field guide. And they're color coded where the darker the shading, the rarer the bird is in terms of our count. So I've defined 5 categories, and a category 1 bird is just going to be in white. And if I scroll down, so like the mallard, right, is a category 1 bird. And that means it's been seen in every Christmas count we've ever done. Category 2, we have missed at least once. Category 3 is more like about, I forget what the actual numbers are, but it's about half the counts we've had that bird. Category 4, we've had maybe just one time before. And category 5, which is the darkest shading, like the mountain quail, that's a bird that we know is in the circle. Like we've seen it during scouting, but we've never had it on the day of the count. So I'm very motivated. Michael Mulroy and Tom and Matthew Mulroy are going to be up at Ramiro's Saddle, and I've been peppering them with information on the mountain quail that I know are up there. I'm like, please get the mountain quail. So we'll see how they do. I mean, mountain quails are hard to see. They're shy and they, stay away from people. Yeah, Rob.
I'm just wondering if the road down to Jameson Lake has been closed, usually after it rains.
Jenny, you were giving an update before the meeting started. Are you willing to unmute and share with the group what you've heard about Jameson access?
We did. Sorry, hold on.
I'll turn the volume down.
Sorry. If you can hear me, we do have an update. The road they got 6 inches of rain Monday and Tuesday. Alan did a recon yesterday. He said he moved 3 or 4 trees. He moved a whole bunch of boulders. He said we can do it if we have a 4-wheel drive vehicle with high clearance. He said to bring a chainsaw and a rock bar and gloves, and be ready to move stuff. But we're going to do it. There's 2 cars. That way we can help each other if somebody, gets stuck. And if we can't make it, we're going to turn around, but we're going to try.
That is awesome. Thank you guys so much for being willing to go on an expedition.
That's
to
a
get us
long walk.
those Jameson Lake birds. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I was talking about that spreadsheet. I encourage you to check it out. There's a little more detail there. Basically, what you're doing is in the field, I was showing you the data tab that has all that color coding that shows you what birds we have and who has seen the bird. Right now, it's all filled in because we've been using it during scouting. But on Friday night, I'm going to empty out that seen by column. So it's all going to be blank. We'll still have the locations where the birds have been seen in the column next to that. And then on count day itself, you in the field or the people manning the computers at home are going to be updating that to reflect the information as it comes in about which birds have been seen. So you'll be able to look at that spreadsheet, hopefully, if we're doing our job, and see what birds we do and don't have in real time throughout the day. So that will hopefully be very useful if you're, especially in the afternoon when you're thinking, oh, you know, what bird should I go try and get to fill in the gaps of what we haven't seen for the count? You can use that spreadsheet. So I don't want to take a lot more time and talk about it. It's, you know, probably of interest to a small subset of the people participating. And if you have questions about it, just let me know. You can, as I say, you can play with it now during scouting. You can enter your name in the seen by column if you see a bird that's not listed. But that's what that is. Let's see.
Todd,
Yeah.
just remind people they have to download the app on their phone.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, with Google Sheets, you can access the sheet with a web browser, like if you have, you know, a browser on your phone. But in order to do these updates, you'll need the Google Sheets app, which is a free app that you would have to install ahead of time. So again, if you're interested in using that in the field, I encourage you to put a little time in between now and Saturday to get yourself up to speed and make sure it works for you. I think, let's see, was there anything else? Tally spreadsheet. That's pretty much it. You know, I can talk, if people have questions about the specific locations where they're going, you know, I'd be happy to chat more about specific locations. You know, we could talk about the birds that have been seen. But again, if you go to that eBird trip report, that Carpinteria CBC scouting trip report, you can see the list of all the birds that have been reported in the circle in eBirds. You can kind of see what we've been finding. It's very exciting.
Hey, John, I didn't scour that list, but I saw the number like 139. Are there like areas we haven't scouted yet? Pelagics or things that might get us up to the number? Yeah. So the pelagic birds are poorly represented there. And, you know, again, assuming the weather is okay, Hugh Ranson is going to go out with Santa Barbara Channel Keeper on their boat from Santa Barbara Harbor. So they have a good chance of seeing some pelagic species that have not been seen so far during the scouting. So yeah, that's one source of more birds. There are actually a few more species. I think the trip report currently shows, I want to say 139 species. But when I do a query of the eBird API within the boundaries of our count circle, for the past 14 days, I get 144 species. So there's another 5 species that have been seen in our count circle that aren't reflected in that trip report, just because people haven't joined the trip report or shared with the Carp CBC eBird user, and which is fine. I mean, not everybody has to be doing everything just to satisfy my need for information. But I think I have noted all of those species and added them to the spreadsheet I was showing you, the shared tally spreadsheet. So those species are reflected in that list. So that gets us to 144. You know, it would be great to get to 160. 160 is the number we've always tried to get to. You know, Rob, you know, has been trying for a decade, more than a decade now, to get to 160, and we're continuing that noble quest. We will get there. I'm not sure this is going to be the year. You know, we've got some things, we've got some headwinds this year. Let's put it that way. The way the holidays fall with the Christmas count window this year, Christmas falls on a Saturday, which kind of limits the number of days people can choose. So Ventura ended up picking the same day as normally we do the first Saturday in the window. They're also having their count, the Ventura Christmas count, on the first Saturday. So we've lost a number of birders who typically we're covering that part of our circle, that eastern part of our count circle that goes over into Ventura County. So we've lost some people there. And I think in general, it seems like, people have a lot going on in their lives right now. There's people traveling or people dealing with health issues. And we've got a somewhat smaller list of participants this year, but we have a number of new participants this year, and it'll be what it is, and we'll see how the birds do. We did get some rain, obviously in this last week, so maybe that'll help with some waterfowl. I know, Rob, you were seeing some new waterfowl at the salt marsh. You had a pintail there this morning, I think you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, who knows? That's what's so fun about it. We won't know until we get out there and see what's out there in the field. And the other thing I think is that, what we've been doing so far and over the last 2 weeks that generated that count of 144, that's a few people, running around trying to find birds. And it's a handful of people. And what we're going to have on Saturday is many handfuls of people all going out at the same time, all going out during prime birding hours in the early morning at all these different locations. So who knows? I mean, I'm looking forward to finding out what we can get to as a number. It'll be fun, and I'm certainly going to be focused on, if there are some easy birds we don't have come noon, I'm going to be highly motivated to run around in the afternoon and try and pick up those easy ones at least.
John, you mentioned prime birding hours. What are prime birding hours to you?
Well, sunrise is around 7 these days. I would say the first 2 hours after sunrise, like 7 to 9 is probably the best time. I mean, it depends on the habitat and the kind of bird. Big raptors tend to come out later. They sleep in late and wait for there to be updrafts that they can soar on. But for little passerine birds, morning is good. They're active then. They're more vocal then. You've got a better shot at them. But you can find good birds at any time. So again, if you're sufficiently motivated, like I'm planning on being out there, before sunrise, I'm going to hit Ramiro Canyon, I think, and hopefully get some owls, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Are there birds, John, that we haven't seen you would expect to be here now?
Yeah, that's actually useful. This will be maybe the last thing we look at. Let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. And I'm going to look at the same spreadsheet I was showing you on my phone, but I'm going to look at it on the computer here. And I'll show you, besides that data tab that I was showing you where you can input your name in the seen by column to indicate that you've seen a bird. We also have a seen tab. And if you go there, this is based on what's in the data tab. So any, let's see, I didn't actually share it, did I? So you're not seeing any of this. I apologize. Yeah, let me go ahead and actually complete the sharing process. There we go. So now the thing I'm describing makes a little more sense. And you all are encouraged to jump in and tell me when I'm being that stupid in the future before I get too embarrassed and go too far. But here we have this, so here's the data tab that I was just talking about, right, with the color shading. And then there are these other tabs that are generated from the data tab. So the seen tab is all the species that have a name in the seen by column on the data tab, and they're sorted with the rarest birds first. So category 5 is at the top in taxonomic order within that category, and then category 4. So if you go there, you can kind of, on the day, you can look at the top of that list and see what are the best birds that have been reported so far. And then the need tab is the one that shows us, what are the most common species that we don't have yet. So these are the birds where there is no report of them being seen. So black turnstone, no one has reported that in eBird in our count circle in the last 2 weeks. So those of you who are going to be at the beach, check every rock, because there's got to be black turnstones out there. Hopefully we can get them at Rincon Island, but certainly keep your eyes open for them. Black crowned night heron, in the marsh. It's funny that yellow crowned night herons are easy for us now, but black crowned night herons are actually more difficult. Cedar waxwing, they got to be out there. These are the kinds of birds where I feel like, if we've got 40 or 50 different groups out there birding, which we should have, early in the day, someone's going to see a cedar waxwing. There has to be a flock of them out there somewhere. Blue-winged teal, there are a couple of teal at the Kim's Market Pond, and I don't know if Andrea is still on, but Andrea, you were assigned Kim's Market Pond, and I certainly encourage you to check out the birds there. There are some first-year teals there, and they're either blue-winged or cinnamon, and they're probably blue-winged. Yeah, Rob.
This evening in Franklin Creek, I had a female green wing and I had a female maybe blue wing. Just judging from that little smudge of white around the beak. I listed as teal spur.
Yeah, which, for the Kim's Market Pond birds, I had said, blue wing / cinnamon. And actually I started off at teal spur and I said, well, okay, I can eliminate green winged, I think. But I consulted, Nick Lethaby said, yeah, he thought they were probably blue winged teal. I'm going to try and get photos on the day. We'll see what we can do. See what we can do to turn them into blue winged teal so they can be counted.
So how many?
Did I include meadowlarks in one of the last checklist lists I sent you? I'm thinking about it now, and I don't remember putting it on the list.
I think you did, because I don't see it as I scroll through the needs list.
I'll check when we're done.
Yeah.
If not, I'll edit the list.
How many times do you think during the day I should go to Kim's Pond?
Well, I would say go there once. Well, I mean, birds can show up and leave. It's kind of, I trust your judgment, Andrea. So if you think you can do more good, hitting some other habitat, go hit that other habitat. If you've done it.
Bruce was talking about, I should go to Kim's Pond and the cemetery, and then he would do our trail that's behind the houses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, he has to go somewhere in the afternoon. So I was saying that I could do the trail behind the houses in the afternoon. So I don't know.
I don't have any good advice for you. I'd say trust your instincts on that one. And again, how much energy you have on the day. If you can hit, the Kim's Market Pond at least once, that's good. As I said, I think I'm going to hit it really quick on my way from Ramiro Canyon down to Rincon Island, just because I want to get photos of those teals, but I'm not sure I'm going to stick around long enough to really, there could be something lurking in the back of the pond that comes out if you give it a good 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or? All right. Well, everybody, thank you again. It's very exciting for me. It's the highlight of my year. And I'm just, it's just very fun to go out and just see all those numbers come in and see what we can do in terms of finding Carpinteria's birds and representing them. Okay, well, if I don't talk to you before, before then, good luck everybody on Saturday, especially, go ahead and admit Rebecca from the waiting room. Yeah, we have to say hi to Rebecca. But yeah, especially those of you going out to Jameson Lake, our thoughts are with you. Be careful on the road. We don't want to have a catastrophe. But yeah, and but a lot is riding on your birds. You guys have that inland freshwater habitat.
We've got Peter Gady going, so we're in good hands.
Oh,
And we're making Lucas clear the rocks in front of the road for us. So
Excellent.
that's the deal.
Hi, Rebecca.
Thanks, John.
So, yeah, Rebecca, you're joining just as we're about to leave. So you're welcome to stay on and I'll chat with you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, was it something I said I didn't say?
No, it's just we got to the end of what we were going to talk about.
Sorry, yeah, I was on another wine Zoom, so I could have been so entertaining.
Yeah, well, maybe we can have wine at our compilation on Saturday night. So we'll have that be a fun Zoom meeting.
Nice to
All right.
meet you, everybody.
Yeah, so yeah, for everybody who's leaving, goodbye. And again, Rebecca, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to
Thank
answer.
you.
Bye,
Okay.
Brody. Good luck on Saturday.
John, thanks so much, man. Doing a great job.
Oh, well, thank you, Robin. Thanks for all the scouting. You've been tireless out there. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Oh, let me
Thanks,
just
John.
mention one thing.
Sure.
I want to put in a plug for Merlin, the Merlin app. I've been using it for sound ID, and man,
it's great.
it's really good. I was out there a few days ago and we heard some twittering, some chirping off in the distance. I was on the footbridge and this was coming from the direction of Santa Monica Creek, and it picked up green-winged teal at like 150 yards away. And I went
That's
over
great.
there and there were green-winged teal there. So, and
That's awesome.
this morning it got Munius by sound.
excellent.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
which I don't think we're on the list yet. I mean, that was the first they'd showed up in the scouting report, so that's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Use it on Saturday too.
Right, for sure.
Good to know.
I'll stick with you for a minute, John.
Sure. Okay, well, bye everybody else, or whoever wants to
Okay.
stay and eavesdrop on me and Rebecca.
Thanks, John.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Thanks,
Rebecca.
bye.
Oh, God, it's so sad. This is the only way I ever see people.
We'll get back to normal
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah, we just canceled a bunch of stuff at the museum. Not a bunch of stuff. It was a holiday gathering and looking at events now. So, oh well.
So yeah, did you have questions, or you're doing the Ortega Ridge Pines and somewhere else, I think?
The park, Toro Canyon Park. Yeah.
Oh, right. Where Libby got creepers just yesterday, I think. So that's
Oh, good.
wonderful.
Because I went over there the other day and did not hear them. So I'm glad to know that. Is there any change to the sort of data reporting or gathering or whatever that I should know about?
Not really. If you've looked at that instructions page at carpbirdwatchers.org, I mean, I went over that earlier in this meeting, but it's all there on that page. If you're submitting via eBird, that's ideal. If you either share with the Carp CBC, eBird, well, I know you've been doing it because you've been doing it during the
Yeah, I'll do
scouting.
that. Okay. I don't know timing wise. Will you? I don't know about the service at Toro Canyon Park, the cell service.
It's kind of iffy sometimes.
If one of us will try to get the word out to you, if we get or miss or whatever, creeper or anything else of note, but otherwise it may be not until I get home that I can get the
Share it. Yeah,
list.
that's fine. Yeah, that's no problem. I mean, that's going to happen. You know that already. That there are going to be blank areas on the map on the day, and they just kind of get filled in once we get the information.
Okay. Is it forecast to actually be raining, or is it?
As of this morning, it says clear. So I'm hoping it will be clear on Saturday.
Great. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to just going out birding for a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have as many of the headaches that you have when you're organizing the forces for the Santa Barbara count.
No, and I have to say that I'm still glad that I made that decision this particular season, but I so miss the even though it takes a lot of time, I really miss the kind of chatter of people that I don't get to see or even hear from except once a year, and I have been missing that. But
yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be at the Goleta Sanitary District plant on the 1st.
Yeah,
so that'll be fun.
So I'm actually because I'm not I don't need to be downstream. I'm going to do Lauro and then go up to the mountains with Maggie Sheriffs, which I haven't done in many years. So I'm really looking forward to being on Kinnavan, and that's what I used to do, all the mountain zone. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Just the team is doing such a great job getting everything together, and in the changing sands of everything. They've been really great. We are still without a boat. They're not able to do New Year's Day.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, so I've asked, there is one other potential, Ron Hurst's brother-in-law has a boat that we have used before once, but he hasn't gotten back to me. So what I really need to do is just find somebody who knows some of the fishing boats, some of them, give them a couple $100 and fuel, and maybe they wouldn't mind going out. So
You would think, I mean, they're trying to make ends meet, and here's, a paying customer who just wants to go out and tootle around outside the
go back
harbor.
and
It's not that hard.
the count circle boundary, yeah. I actually have never been on it for a CBC, so I don't know what they do. I would guess that they go out, start on the east just because of the light, and kind of go along the boundary, and then I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have not done that myself.
Yeah. Okay, well, if I have questions, I'll
Yeah,
check.
just let me know.
I will. Thanks for all your hard work. I know what a job it is.
Well, you more than most knows how much work goes in. I mean, I think our effort pales compared to what you organized or
guys
have
are-
organized for the Santa
Guys
Barbara
are
County.
doing a great job. It's beautiful. There are so many parts of what you're doing that I wish we could implement easily, but with this many people, it's harder to corral. But I love the scouting shares. That's been really great.
Yeah, that's fun. That's a neat feature from eBird. Okay, well, I will talk to you later, Rebecca. Good luck on
Okay.
Saturday.
Thanks, John. See you later.
See ya.